Leadership development exists because none of us are perfect, fully realized people. We all have room for growth in our lives, and we need help along the way. Hi, and welcome to Developing Imperfect Leaders.
Because the last time I checked, we're not Jesus.
Definitely not.
This podcast is a project of the Leadership Development Institute at Hope Community Church, designed to help you explore and grow your leadership skills for service both inside and outside the church. I'm your host, Paul Stiver, and I'm joined by my co-hosts.
Oh my gosh!
Now he's just doing it on purpose.
That was a joke. I'm joined by my co-host, Kaelyn Larson.
Hi.
And Naty Severson.
Hi, and this is exactly why we don't pre-record this intro. You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, you got to keep it fun.
Got to keep it going.
Yep.
So I guess I'm going to kick us off here with a little would you rather. And this stems from a controversial would you rather that we've done earlier on the show. If those of you remember, Kaelyn and Paul's rampant desire to break traffic laws.
It's so good.
This one stems from that.
One right
so this is mostly for you because I feel like it doesn't apply to me in the same way, but I hope this really burns deep for both of you. Would you rather have to stop at every single red light or never be able to speed again?
Oh my gosh. This is actually a really good one.
You can't even decide.
I knew someone once, I won't say who, but they got caught speeding.
Mm-hmm.
And then I used to ride with them a lot.
Yeah.
And they decided like post speeding to go the speed limit for a long time.
Okay.
And I didn't know they had gotten caught speeding. I was like, what is with this sudden radical change? And they like played it off as if it was like, this is a choice. You know, I just decided.
Yeah,
but then later, like the newspaper published in my hometown, like the, kind of the crime report, and their name was in there.
For like a reckless or something.
For speeding. And
Wow.
I was like, so it wasn't this like miraculous like repentance so much as it was like I had an
caught,
instant. I got caught. Yeah,
I could lose my license or my insurance.
That being said, I love speeding. I'm going to speed as soon as this podcast is done. No, I think, gosh, this is a really good one, Naty. You did great.
I don't know.
I would I'd have to choose red lights just because what are we counting as speeding? Just anything over the speed limit?
Like you would have a governor on your car. Your governor on your car.
Rise.
I think I could more.
You try to press it, you can't go any faster.
I think I could more easily come to terms with stopping at red lights than I could come to terms with 55 or whatever.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
All right, Kay, what's your...
I agree.
Okay.
She's going to explode right now.
You can't handle it.
I could just feel like both situations, not so much the red light, but driving the speed limit can make my blood pressure rise.
It shouldn't.
We just switched insurance companies, and so now we have like a tag in our car, and so
you can't
yesterday
be a maniac.
Kurt texted me, and he was like, "I see that you have 2 hard brakes on your way to work."
Oh my gosh!
was like,
if Jared knew that, I would never.
I was like, "No, you can't know this," and he's like, "I feel so validated."
The ever-watching eye.
Oh my gosh, that's my nightmare.
Technology.
Jared did that, have like digital inspection of my driving. I would pick red lights too. I mean, we drive to South Padre Island, Texas every year. And I was like, we don't go that fast over the speed limit, but even if you go like 4 miles an hour over the speed limit over the course of 24 hours of driving, it's a lot of different. It's like an hour off the drive.
Yeah.
So it would be tough. It would be tough to do that. And I've never gotten a speeding ticket, but if I did, I'd have it coming. That's for sure.
I have too many, but
I don't really go that fast, so it explains why I haven't gotten one. But like, still, woof. Okay, well, I'm glad we could revisit that sensitive topic.
I feel a little stressed right now.
Just thinking about it. I dare you to drive the speed limit the whole way home.
I can't.
Just the thought
Once
of it.
again, I feel like I should say Hope Community Church does not condone violation of any laws, including the laws of the road.
Yeah.
You should drive the speed limit. It is safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, especially I actually drive under the speed limit in like my neighborhoods and
that's you?
pedestrian areas. I'm one of those.
yes,
Because you never know
neighborhoods.
when a kid's
For
going to
sure.
go
Like a
flying
wisdom.
out.
It's
Yeah.
more like 35W.
Yeah. But if there's any chance I could hit a pedestrian, I go into like full grandma mode. Full grandma. Like full
thing.
grandma.
Is when you're on like 94, the posted speed limit is 60. If you go,
And people get mad at you.
people are flying.
Yeah,
They're going
they get mad at you.
75. So I'm always like, well, if I got pulled over, my move is to blame others. I'm just going to be like, I wasn't actually even going the fastest. Did you see the other cars? It's not going to work. I'll be arrested.
Yeah.
But like, well, maybe not arrested. Who knows? Depends on how fast.
Yeah.
I just like, if Kurt is driving the speed limit or a little below, I'll be like, did you know that the speed is this? Because
Nice.
I'm like,
Maybe he thinks there could be children
He could be
present.
unaware.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anytime
Anyway.
I could, if there's like West River Road, like
Yeah.
going to my house, there's
Yeah.
so many people out and about running and stuff. And they pop out on.
That's good.
Anyway,
I appreciate that
We
as
gotta
someone.
stop.
That's why.
we got to stop
Yeah.
this
All right.
conversation though. But
All right, let's get into the leading question. And now we're digging into our last pillar of the 3 pillars of LDI. And this one is the ministry skills pillar. So this is now you're either working in the church or you're kind of you belong to the church, you're caring for people in the church setting, and you're going to leverage your ministry skills. What should I do if I don't know what I'm doing?
I love this question. It's like something we should ask ourselves every day, really, just to keep ourselves humble. We should just acknowledge, hey, I act like I know what I'm doing some of the times, and maybe some of those times I do know what I'm doing, but what do I do if I don't know what I'm doing? You ask for help if you don't know what you're doing. I think that's my gut answer on that one was ask for help if you don't know what you're doing. Especially when it comes to the topic of ministry skills. But in general, I think we're so reticent to ask for help. It just, the proverbial, guy in a supermarket. They must be out of ketchup. I can't find it. No, there's literally a whole aisle. No, there's none. I know there's none.
Yeah.
Right. And I know that's stereotypical and that doesn't fit a lot of people, but it's that the reason we have that stereotype is because we're so like reticent to ask for help, even if it's a big deal, like emotional health. We won't ask for help on huge things, let alone, like where to find the ketchup.
Yeah, actually on the ketchup idea, one of the greatest inventions for me, an introvert and a male who doesn't want to ask for help, is the Target and like
I
other
was
stores.
just thinking
their
this
app-
too.
You guys are so much alike.
The app has like so after I break a couple of traffic laws going to Target, I go in.
I need to be
and
faster
I'm like,
inside
where
Target.
is the
Click the
where's the
map
hot sauce or
button.
whatever? And I just look in the app and it tells me instead of having to, God forbid, talk to a human being.
Well,
and
okay,
ask.
I
Look
have
for a
done.
red shirt, or now like somebody who's in a vaguely red shirt at Target. It's not as obvious anymore, but
Yeah.
never wear something vaguely red to Target. You'll get asked for help. Yeah.
When you were saying the ketchup thing, I thought the Target map. I use that too.
Yeah.
But now I know the layout of Target mentally because
Yeah.
of all this time. All right. I just to add to the topic, kind of one I just said try some stuff. Two, in a ministry setting, try some things. Just sign up to serve somewhere and just see what happens. And then similarly, as you're doing it, talk to other people, get help there. Okay. Any thoughts on what should I do if I don't know what I'm doing?
Yeah, initial gut answer is you can just ask. But then when I think of ministry skills, I'm like, yeah, please ask for me to tell myself you should go ask. But when you said emotional health, I was like, oh, I can see where people get stuck on like, I don't want to ask for help in this area of my life. But yeah, so I would say ask, even though it's kind of like ugh.
I think there can be this perception in the church too of fake it till you make it. I've seen leadership that, might not at Hope, just to be clear, but I've been in places, not necessarily within the church either, just in life where the fake it till you make it thing is the best, because if you admit you don't know what you're doing, there's consequences, right? You are either seen as like inferior or maybe not smart enough to do your job or not independent enough to figure it out, right? And so you might actually, there might be some consequences for asking for help. So it depends, I suppose, on your marketplace too, or even knowing who to ask, right?
Right.
But in ministry
yes.
skills, I would hope that churches would promote a culture of imperfection in the sense that everyone's growing, everyone is in some way in leadership development. So of course you wouldn't know how to solve every single thing that comes your way, right? I hope the church would promote that, but perhaps there are church cultures where that's not the case.
Yeah. Let's get into the quote of the week. So again, we're looking at this ministry skills pillar, and we're thinking about our LDI program because this is a part of that. And our quote actually comes from, again, our LDI Program Documents, and it reads, "Practicing ministry while receiving guidance from experienced leaders allows interns to grow in their own practical leadership skills." There's a lot of big words there. Okay, what are your thoughts on this quote?
I would say, I think it's a great quote because I think we need to practice and have reps as we are growing in leadership. And then I think, like, as an intern who just went with Naty a lot to the things that she was doing, I was able to see the ways in which she applied ministry skills to situations, and then take those and kind of adapt them of like, okay, Naty and I aren't like the same. And so how can I take what she does and then kind of adapt it to the way in which like I engage with others or an experience or situation.
Yeah, similar kind of experience for me. I was thinking just now about, now I co-teach our systematic theology class, but that wasn't always the case. When I was an intern, I took it as a student. And then when I was still an intern, the second year, and I think maybe even third year, I was a TA for it. And we just kind of graded papers and like I went to the class, watched the teacher teach it. And then after, it was either 1 year of TAing or 2, I don't recall, I started co-teaching it because I had the time. And then thankfully there was another teacher in there when I would teach that I could get feedback from. So not only to have that observation time, but then got the chance to practice the skill and get feedback from a trusted leader. So really blessed by that too. Naty, what about you?
I was just marveling at this quote because it just dawned on me for the first time in all the years of my life that practicing and practical are almost the same word.
Yeah.
So then I was like, does it mean just
practically
doing?
The same
they're
word.
Practically, and it's practically the same word. Also, get it? Practically.
Okay, you getting it?
Hilarious.
Are we all getting it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. It does create. That's why we love the internship, right? You get you see the blend of the 3 pillars coming together in this one. Again, we mentioned in the last episode that when you're in ministry situations together, Christ-like character or un-Christ-like character emerges in some of those tough moments, and we begin to see it. Or when interns get busy, or when we get busy, how we approach the interns, our character gets revealed, and so that's an opportunity for growth. But also then interns get to watch. I think we like in our internship program a good balance between doing and watching. And I think for some situations, you just like, if we're used to pool analogy, some situations, some internships might just throw you in the deep end and walk away and be like, hope you can swim. And others might be like, hey, just sit on the edge and you can barely dip your toe in the water. And then you can watch us do it all. And we try to create like hey, why don't you jump in the water with us? And we're going to make sure you don't drown, but we're also going to like let you try to swim. And so we try to keep that balance as we move it through our internship. And it's really, I think it helps leaders to grow in confidence because they're actually doing it. And then when in those circumstances when things don't go quite right, they're met with an environment of grace that says, hey, get back up to the plate again. Not every at-bat's a home run.
Mm-hmm. So let's get into this topic a little more. What are ministry skills first? And 2, are they only relevant for people who are employed by the church?
I think of ministry skills as leadership skills. Like essentially, I view them as a way to know how to serve, how to support, and how to care for people when you're interacting with them. And so whether you are in the church or outside the church or employed by the church or in the marketplace, I think learning ministry skills, engaging in skills in that nature will be applicable to all followers of Christ.
Yeah, what are ministry skills? I don't mean to be Captain Obvious here, but they're skills you use in ministry.
Nice.
And so ministry happens, well, thank you. I really get paid the big bucks for this. There's skills you use in ministry, and those, hopefully ministry happens both inside the walls of the church and outside of it, and inside of groups with other believers and groups with people who don't know Jesus. We should be using ministry skills because we're representing Jesus to some extent in everything that we do. But some of those would be, like, how do I be a good listener? They're that basic. Like, how do I stop moving my mouth and start listening with my ears? That's a huge ministry skill. That's very underrated. How do I meet somebody who's in crisis? What do I do in that moment? How do I help somebody grieve? How do I encourage somebody? Or even last week when we talked about how do I talk to somebody about maybe an area that they have some room for growth in terms of Christ-like character. How do I even begin that conversation? Those are all ministry skills, but those then hopefully are transferable into different environments that you wouldn't say aren't necessarily ministry in the sense of you work at a church, because that's very few people, very few followers of Christ get paid to do the work of ministry. Most people are volunteers who are just doing it day in and day out.
Yeah, just thinking of like within the ministry that's happening at Hope, whether inside the walls of the church or outside, we've got things like leading a small group. Leading a small group takes administration. It takes collaborative nature of meeting with your team. It takes being able to, in some ways, facilitate a conversation, although we kind of take some of the pressure out of it, I think, with our setup and all kinds of different approaches. That's just one thing, or teach a class, or set up an event, or all these things kind of have, and again, they can take place inside or outside the walls of the church, but they all, require different skills and tools that ultimately are in service of God. So why then are ministry skills a pillar of the LDI program?
Well, it is a leadership development institute. And so we're encouraging people to lead well. And ministry skills have, like Kaelyn mentioned, a large overlap with leadership skills, right? Some of the things that we need to know to do ministry revolve around areas of compassion, which would have been like I just mentioned a minute ago, like listening and meeting someone in an area of crisis, but also how to cast vision for for something. And we do have an episode, I think season 2, right, where we talked about vision, how to do that. How do I share with somebody, get somebody on board with how I think God's moving right now? Those are all very transferable skills. And so in order to, essentially trash the kingdom of darkness. Have we said that on this podcast?
I don't think so.
Yeah, we want to go into the kingdom of darkness and trash the joint. Like we want to be out in the world. We want to be doing ministry skills doing ministry skills that are very practically. And we want to be out there, and we want to be doing it well. We want people to feel equipped to be out in the world doing ministry for God. And if you don't feel equipped, you typically don't feel confident. And if you're confident without being equipped, that can kind of backfire on you pretty quickly. So I don't know.
I think LDI could easily become about gaining head knowledge. And we talk about that when we are talking to people about the program, of like the 3 pillars are a perfect blend of, and Paul talks about this too, it's like head, heart, hand. And so you're taking what you are learning in classes while Christ is growing you through his word and being with people. And then you get to apply basically what you're learning into situations. And so, what? I just saw Naty's hand reach over to my head, and I didn't know what to expect. And so I think you get ministry skills as a neat way to apply that in how you are then leading and serving others.
Yeah, I was laughing just to myself as I was thinking about this, and now I can maybe laugh with others. This is always where I think a lot of growth needs to happen. We talk about growing in the biblical thinking, growing in the character, but you don't know what you're doing. I remember an example when I was a year 1 intern. We did a different approach to our fundraiser that we do every year. we did a 5K, and I was called to order shirts for the 5K.
Oh yeah,
I just had to
remember this.
order. All I had to do was order T-shirts, and it was like I was climbing Mount Everest, like spiritually, emotionally, for some reason.
He's just like, I'm so unequipped. I don't know. He was
Like
paralyzed.
now I'm like,
paralyzed
just
by
order
decisions.
T-shirts.
Yeah.
No one cares.
Yep.
If you care about T-shirt orders, I do too.
Was yours the
But
gray
no.
one with?
It was black and it was teal and it had logos. I think it was just like mentally, it was an awful shirt. But I was thinking like, I don't know how much we can spend. This feels like. Meanwhile, there are people
Break the
further down the
bank.
road from me that are like, it's just T-shirts for a church event, and people will have very low standards for. But I didn't know what I didn't know, and so it actually felt like, so kind of seeing how that all comes together. It wasn't just like that skill of doing that thing. It was like my whole character was involved. The way I thought about it was involved. So just kind of interesting that way.
What will people think of
You were
me
humbled.
as a reflection of this shirt?
Yeah,
Right?
I was very humbled. And now it's funny to look back and be like, I just ordered T-shirts. They're like, one person might be like, "Oh, I didn't know if I didn't like this fabric," and it's like, well,
Austin.
I had to make a choice. At some point, you got to make a choice. All right. So I'm not a bitter T-shirt orderer. I want you to have a great shirt. We've done great work in the shirt arena. All right. How has this pillar proven to be significant in your life and leadership? And I can kind of just carry on here. I think about things like learning how to be a better communicator to I think men and women, but also different ways that people are tending to think and try to find ways to land things. Like, for example, people that are more moved by heart level stories, making sure that I tell one once in a while and don't just impart knowledge. I think learning teaching skills, that's been I think I've shared previously on the podcast that Naty in particular helping me think about teaching skills, or Kaelyn helping me learn how to ask good questions. I think I've become a better planner, hopefully, and listener and strategist. And probably, again, just being around you guys has really helped a lot. And I think that was, when I think about the program in this area, the emphasis on self-awareness, which we've talked about at different times, but that's not an ungodly thing. That actually, to know yourself and have emotional awareness of who you are and what you're bringing to the table actually helps you better serve other people. It's not a thing where you're just kind of staring inward and focused on self, but actually doing it for a reason. And so that's been a huge one too, just helping me develop in this program and then around this team and thinking about this topic. But yeah, love to hear, Kay, about how has this pillar proved significant in your life and leadership?
Similar to character, this pillar also humbles me because it reminds me that I need the Lord in the ways in which I'm serving others. As mentioned, I can be very task over relationship. And so I think the ways in which I've grown through ministry skills is learning how to see this person as a person versus just a like cog in the machine of who can help me get what I need to get done. And if I didn't have the Spirit working in me, I'd probably still operate that way. And so it just is humbling to know that I can't do this without God's help.
I think that this is considered a part of leadership development, has formed the way I think about how we should do church. So had ministry skills are maybe reserved for the professionals in some church environments, right? Like, I can't do this or that if I really don't know what I'm doing. But at Hope, we have this culture of, hey, let's give you some basic tools to get you going, and let's have you learn as you go, right? Let's have you try it and learn as you go, offer you feedback. And it could be a product of Hope being a church plant, and then it's starting with such a relatively young congregation. And then our congregation continues to be fairly young for a church. And so we're seeing just the necessity in a ministry pillar being part of leadership development. But I could see it getting almost ejected in some cases, maybe out of a needing or wanting a standard, a very, very high standard, or maybe even we might call it worshiping excellence or worshiping perfection. You might not let that be a pillar. You might have to prove yourself in other, like very behind the scenes ways. And not that we don't encourage people to be behind the scenes and to work behind the scenes. That's not what I mean. But I think it's neat that we've chosen to make this a part of what leadership development looks like at Hope, that you don't need to come into it expecting to be perfect, that if you have to ask for help, we know that's a good sign. It's a sign of humility. It's a sign that you want to grow. It's a sign that then I can turn around when I don't know and ask a question too. I still have times I'm like, whoa, that was a curveball I didn't expect in that time. And so then I can go to people I trust and ask questions and have them help me kind of workshop it. Like, okay, if that curveball came again, what would I do? And it becomes a really safe spot to learn and grow. I think if you don't have a safe spot to grow, you never really grow. And then you never really try, because who wants to try when they don't know the outcome if they're going to get blasted for not being perfect at it? Or I think of young small group leaders. I need to know how to handle every passage in the Bible that comes up. No, you don't. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
If a salt loses its saltiness, when you're like, well, I'm not sure. Like, I don't know. Yep.
All right. So as we think about then practically, let's say I'm a young leader. I want to grow in my ministry skills. What can I do?
I would say go do ministry.
Okay. Check.
Yeah.
All right.
What does that mean? I would say just get involved in areas that interest you. And I would say that could be inside and outside of the church, because as we've been talking about, ministry skills happen both inside and outside of the church. And so whether that's inside the church and you're serving with hospitality or children's ministry or a small group leader. But then, there was one season that I did Girls on the Run. And there's many ways in which you can do that. But I was able to take things that I've been learning through LDI and apply that then to something I was doing outside of the church. And so I would say just getting involved in ways that can help you grow.
I agree. I think all of those things are true.
I'm dying over here.
Paul's dying.
It's the worst
And
time.
Paul
We're at the end of the episode.
I'm not blaming
I have
you
dad
here.
coughs. I have dad coughs here.
What is a dad cough?
Just your dad.
Very loud.
Oh, I didn't realize there was a dad cough. I know dad jokes and dad hats. But
What about dad
What's a dad
sneezes?
hat?
a dad hat's kind of the low profile, kind of denim-y cloth. It's just cloth fabric, kind of thicker fabric. There's no mesh on a dad hat. It probably has a Velcro back.
Yeah.
Or maybe the one where you pull through with the little clasp
The dad
thing.
sneeze, though, is also...
Is it just really loud?
Just scream.
Yeah.
A scream sneeze.
When you coughed, I had a thought and it totally left my head. So I'm glad you talked about something else, because I went,
we keep it really professional on the podcast.
I seriously
I agree.
actually had something to say, but maybe if you answer,
I got a couple
try to.
thoughts
Okay, great, thanks.
for growing in your ministry skills. One is our SHAPE class, or any sort of kind of spiritual gifts assessment, but our SHAPE class really does help you understand how God has created and wired you. And maybe Naty, you'd want to add to that. But that one, sign up for a team, a serving team in your church, or do something that Kaelyn mentioned outside the church. Be an intern, become an intern at our church. That's always an option.
Mm-hmm.
Naty, though, anything from your end?
I did remember the minute I took pressure off my brain to remember. I remembered. I was thinking of how sometimes people do it. They're like, you need to get practicum hours or practice hours if you're a ministry major, and some students from local colleges do that at Hope from time to time. And I recently oversaw a woman doing her hours, and she needed 50 or 100 hours a semester. I can't remember. And then at the end of it, she asked if I could be used as a reference, and I said yes. And when they asked me, so they called. A church was wanting to hire her, and they called and they asked me for the reference, and they're like, do you have any questions for us? And I'm like, yeah, what does mentorship look like as a part of this job? And I really, really grilled him about who will she have to ask questions to? Will she know that? What kind of guidance what does that look like? Not because I didn't want her to get the job, because I was curious, because I hope for the sake of these young people moving into ministry that they have a good environment to learn and grow in, because if they don't, they're not going to last very long in ministry. And so it seemed like they had a good system in place. He answered quickly, and I understood it. But I think if you're listening and you're like, I want to lead, I think that's a fair question. to think about or ask or try to observe what does the culture look like. We've been hearing that people listen to this podcast. Like, surprisingly, people actually listen. And secondly, they're not just people who attend Hope Community Church. So whatever your church context is, just thinking through, like, how can you be a part of helping to shape the cultural context of leadership development, especially of developing ministry skills? How can you ask the question, like, who will I have to work with? Who do I ask a question to? If you're leading in a ministry and you're like, I don't even know who I would ask a question to, that's a problem. You should ask somebody, like, if I had a question, who should I ask? And so if you're leading something, make it clear that you want to be asked questions, that you want to be a part of it. Or if it's not you, people are supposed to ask questions to, who should they ask questions to?
Well, that wraps up our conversation for today, but we want to keep connecting with you. So thank you for listening to the podcast. And if you like what you heard, be sure to follow our show and leave a review. We love connecting with our listeners. So if you have questions, comments, or topic ideas, please email us ldi@hopecc.com. LDI is a ministry of Hope Community Church based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We seek to develop leaders in their biblical thinking, Christ-like character, and ministry skills for service both inside and outside the church. We do this through internships, classes, seminars, and retreats. If you're interested in learning more about our internships or other opportunities, visit ldi.hopecc.com or email ldi@hopecc.com. Have a great week.